As a child, I was the one who was responsible, the one who saved money, the one who planned ahead, and the one who lived in the present. At the age of 27, I'm Emma Carter, and I discovered early on that wealth wasn't something that just appeared out of thin air. Sophie, my 25-year-old younger sister, discovered the exact opposite. She spent $2 if she had any. I would stretch, preserve, and prolong a dollar if I had one. The discrepancy was never mentioned by our parents. They may or may not have noticed. Or perhaps they knew exactly what they were doing in their hearts. "Emma, honey, can you help me with the bills?" Mom spoke in that tense tone I'd learned to identify as manipulation cloaked in worry. When I was 16, I was working a part-time job at the grocery store, and yet getting straight A's. 2-year-old Sophie was most likely at the mall, spending her allowance on whatever trend she couldn't get enough of. I was looking at a pile of past due notifications at our scratched-up kitchen table. We were having trouble since Dad's construction company had reached another rough patch. That's what they told me anyway. "Don't worry, Mom," I said, drawing from my savings, which I had accumulated through after-school jobs, birthday money, and babysitting. "I can cover the electric bill this month. It was the first time. That wouldn't be the final one." Let's fast forward 11 years. My phone chimed as I sat at my desk at Harrison and Company, a financial analyst mired in spreadsheets. "Mom, emergency. Need to borrow $2,000. We'll pay you back next month. Love you." With a groan, I launched my banking app. By now, it was standard. There's a new catastrophe every month: housekeeping, medical costs, and auto repairs. What's funny? Not a single receipt ever caught my eye. However, they were my parents. They wouldn't tell me lies, would they? Sophie, meanwhile, was having the time of her life. She was always there when I opened Instagram: luxurious hotels, exotic beaches, and designer shopping sprees. She wrote, "Just living my dreams," as the caption for her most recent photo, which was taken at a 5-star Bali resort. While she was sipping champagne in an infinity pool, I was working extra hours to cover another family emergency. Then my phone rang one random Wednesday afternoon. "Hey, responsible sister," Sophie said in a cocky, vivacious voice. "Did you see my latest post? Paris is amazing." I almost spilled my coffee. "Paris?" One was positive she wasn't working. "I thought you were between jobs." "Carefree," she laughed. "Oh, you know how it is. Sometimes you just gotta treat yourself." Mom and Dad helped a little. They're so supportive of my influencer career. I felt sick to my stomach. Dad and Mom assisted. The same parents who recently took out a $3,000 loan from me to fix their roof. I opened my laptop that evening, retrieved my bank statements, and began doing some math. I had covered every emergency and every transfer. The sum, $47,000, almost all of my pay. But when I looked at Instagram once more, it was the genuine gut punch. Sophie in front of the Tower of Eiffel, dressing in a high-end clothing that costs more than my rent. The caption? "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for making my dreams come true. Best parents ever. Hashtag blessed, hashtag grateful." I shook my hands while looking over her stream. Dubai and Milan. The Bahamas. Trips that I unwittingly paid for. I gazed at my own vehicle, a 7-year-old Toyota, which I found difficult to fill up with gas since I was too preoccupied with paying my parents' bills. Then came the last straw. A notification for the group conversation appeared. "Mama, congratulations to our baby girl on her new car. So proud." A picture was included. Sophie, in front of a just-purchased BMW. My blood froze. I decided, don't text, no phone calls. I was headed there, in person. It seemed like it took longer than usual to drive to my folks' house. There were questions at every turn that I already knew the answers to, but something stopped me cold as soon as I pulled into the driveway. Dad's old pickup was parked next to a brand new Mercedes. With my heart racing, I got out of my car and headed toward the home. Inside, laughter erupted. The voice of Sophie, bright, careless. The same woman who informed me she was having difficulties only a week earlier. The same parents who, only days ago, pleaded with me for money. The front door was not shut all the way. They were seated in the same living room that was allegedly in need of urgent repairs, and I could see them through the gap. Mom held up a glass of champagne. The new car is perfect, Sophie. And next month's trip to the Maldives is all booked. Sophie laughed. Emma has no idea her emergency money is funding all this, right? My blood ran cold at the sound of Dad's laughter. She's always been the responsible one. He shook his head. So focused on her spreadsheets and savings, she never questions anything. Mom grinned. Unlike you, sweetheart, you know how to enjoy life. I went cold. Every crisis, every frantic cry for assistance, every pledge to reimburse me. A falsehood. The weight of treachery crushed me as I leaned against the doorframe, my gut wrenched. Then widening, the door creaked open. 3 sets of eyeballs jerked in my direction. Mom's glass of champagne fell out of her grasp and shattered on the ground. With it, too? The final remnant of my faith. Tiny pieces flew over the wooden floor when the champagne glass broke against it. No one shifted. No one said anything. Sophie's eyes darted between our mother and me, as if she was trying to find a way out, and her mouth hung wide. For a split second, I believed Mom could genuinely appear guilty as her hands trembled. Then, as if on cue, she melted into her well-known, trained, "Oh, sweetheart, this is all a misunderstanding" expression. Dad? He simply sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose, as if I were a burden for being there and for interrupting them when they were celebrating their treachery. Sophie was the first to speak. Emma, we were just what? I asked in a hard, piercing voice that sliced through the tension like a knife. She smoothed the front of her pricey, most likely my money outfit, after taking a deep breath. She offered a fake little giggle and said, "Just celebrating. You know, life's too short to not enjoy it." "You work too hard, Emma. You should shut up." Calmly, the words were released. Even. They struck hard, though. Sophie's mouth closed abruptly. With her heels crunching on the shattered glass, Mom took a step forward. "Honey, let us explain." I extended a hand. "Explain what?" "That every emergency was a lie? That the thousands of dollars I sent to keep this family afloat went straight into Sophie's vacations? Her designer wardrobe? Her brand new BMW?" Mom opened her mouth, but I wasn't finished. "You cried to me, Mom. Cried. Told me you couldn't afford the electricity bill while you were sipping champagne and booking luxury resorts." With my heart pounding, I turned to face Dad. "And you," I added, lowering my voice to a dangerously steady level, "how long has this been going on? How many of Sophie's trips have I unknowingly funded?" At last, Dad spoke in a rough voice. "Emma, it's not that simple." I laughed resentfully. "No, because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty damn simple." He avoided looking into my eyes and scratched his jaw. "We were just trying to help Sophie get established. Her career requires," Mom said hesitantly. I concluded, "a certain lifestyle? For her? One I was paying for?" Sophie crossed her arms and rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, Emma. It's not like you were using the money for anything important. You just hoard it like some financial robot." I felt something crack within of me. I took out my phone and launched the app for my bank. With a cold voice, I said, "Let me show you what I've been doing with my money." I began reading out loud. $3,000 last month. Urgent roof repairs. Funny, the roof looks exactly the same. Mom winced. $2,500 a month before that. Dad's medical bills. Was that medical bill actually a first-class ticket to Dubai, Sophie? Dad tensed, but he acknowledged it. $5,000 before that. Car repairs. Which car exactly? The brand new Mercedes outside? Quiet. I raised my head and met Dad's eyes. "How long?" I asked without faltering. "How many of Sophie's vacations have I unknowingly funded?" Mom opened her mouth, most likely to make another explanation, but I didn't want to hear her falsehoods. I turned to face Sophie and looked at her as if I had never seen her before. She let out a loud sigh and tossed her neatly combed hair over one shoulder. She moaned, "God, Emma, stop behaving like a martyr. If you're jealous of my success, just say it." I went cold. Then I burst out laughing. The laugh wasn't really pleasant. The laugh that comes when you finally realize how deeply the knife has dug into your back was hollow and sharp. I shook my head and said, "Sophie, you don't have success. You have theft." She flushed. That's not success," I interrupted her. "That's fraud." The word struck like a blow from a gavel. Dad's face turned white. "You wouldn't," he began. I raised my phone. I have every text, every email, every transfer documented. In 1 year, you've taken $47,000 from me. Mom started crying, but I saw how cautious she was, not to smear her pricey mascara. Emma, please, she said in a tremulous murmur. We were going to pay you back, we just needed to help Sophie get established. Stop. My voice cut through the nonsense. I don't want to hear another lie. For the first time, I truly noticed the living room as I slowly scanned it. The new furnishings, the interior design, the enormous flat-screen television, while they pleaded with me for money. Exhaling, I steadied myself. My analytical, logical, and unwavering intellect came into play. With a strong voice, I stated, "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay me back, every cent." Sophie laughed. She crossed her arms and asked, "And how do you expect us to do that?" "I need that money for my lifestyle." My face was blank, empty, and completed as I turned to face her. "Your lifestyle is over, Sophie." She instinctively took a step back when she saw anything in my face. "Because if I don't have a repayment plan in my inbox by tomorrow morning, my next call is to the police." Mom's fingers flew to her chest as she gasped. "You wouldn't do that to us," she said. "We're your family." "No," I muttered. "You're thieves who happened to raise me." Between us, the silence was as taut as a rubber band about to break. Then, after a single pause, I turned to face the door. I smirked as I looked over my shoulder. "Oh, and Sophie?" She tensed up. "You might want to start job hunting. I hear places actually expect you to work for money." Crazy concept? I know. I went outside. Chaos broke out behind me, with Mom crying, Sophie yelling, and Dad yelling over them both. However, their drama wasn't my issue for the first time in years. With a deep exhale, I slid into my car. My phone then buzzed. My bank sent me a notification. Mom requested a $5,000 transfer. Emergency. I removed it. I blocked their numbers after that. For once, let them handle their own crises. For this reason, this was not the end of it. Not even close. I was busy too, while they were busy stealing my money. And they were going to find out precisely what their boring, responsible oldest daughter was capable of tomorrow. There was silence when I woke up the following morning. Don't text. No frantic mom voicemails. No messages about family sticking together that are weighted with guilt. It ought to have been pleasant. Instead, it was like looking down at the debris I had just lit on fire while standing on the edge of a cliff. Then my email ping at 9 in the morning, one fresh email. "Dad, Emma, please. We need to talk in person. Come by the house tonight. We have an offer. A proposal?" It nearly made me chuckle. They were unable to haggle. Okay, though, I would listen to them. I pulled up to the house that night and saw the difference right away. The Mercedes had vanished. The BMW had vanished. The only vehicle still parked in the driveway was Dad's dilapidated truck, which he had used prior to their extravagant spending. "Oh," I entered. No glasses of champagne, no brand new designer clothing. It was just Mom, who appeared to have been crying this time. "Dad, I'm tired. Sophie too?" Sophie had a devastated expression. She had not styled her hair. No pricey jewelry, no arrogance. She appeared to have lost for the first time in her life. Dad cleared his throat and commanded, "Sit down?" Yes, I did. However, I placed my phone on the table with the screen facing up before anyone could say anything. "Calm and collected," I added. "Before you say a word, just know that I'm recording this conversation." They all became noticeably rigid. Dad rubbed his temples and moaned. "Emma, we messed up." "We know that." Mom gave a brief nod, her voice full of remorse. "We just need to make things right." I crossed my arms and leaned back. "Great. Where's the repayment plan?" Quiet. Then Mom and Dad looked at each other. He cleared his throat. "Look, Emma, we simply can't pay back that much right now." I remained silent. Sophie was silent for once. Dad made another attempt. Sophie's contracts depend on maintaining her image. If people knew she was in debt, I extended a hand. "Let me stop you right there." I clicked into a ready-made folder on my laptop. I said, "I have 3 options for you," in a stern voice. "Let's go over them." Choice 1. You sell the Mercedes, Sophie's BMW, and liquidate the Florida vacation house. The way their features lost color didn't escape my notice. "Oh, don't look surprised," I replied. "I found out about the vacation house too. The table was penetrated by Sophie's fingernails. Adding, "That would cover the debt in full," Sophie yelled. "That's ridiculous!" At last. "I need my car." My followers, I didn't even give her a glance. Choice 2A legally binding repayment plan. 5 years. Monthly payments. With interest. Mom hesitated and grasped Dad's arm as he went for the paper. "Quietly." "And option 3?" she inquired. I closed my laptop. "The third option," I stated icily, "is to file charges for fraud." Dead. Quiet each transfer. Each text. Each and every email. "You intentionally misled me in order to profit," I added. "That's criminal fraud." Mom breathed sharply, like if she had been struck. Sophie's face lost its color. "You wouldn't." I cocked my head. "You stole from your own sister." Let's not pretend anyone here has the moral high ground. When Dad picked up the repayment plan, his hands shook. I affirmed 5 years, with interest. I then turned to face Sophie. "And there's one more condition." She took a deep breath. "What?" "You tell everyone the truth." Her mouth fell open. "No more lying. No more family emergencies. No more pretending you're a self-made influencer when you've been living off my money. You tell the family, the followers, everyone." She looked at me as if I had just used my bare hands to ruin her career. She muttered, "My brand will be ruined." I gave a shrug. "Then build a new one, based on something real for once." Dad interrupted Mom as she began to argue. "We'll do it," he muttered. I looked at him for a while. "We'll do it," he said again more firmly. "All of it." Mom drooped her shoulders. Sophie said nothing. And suddenly it was finished. I received an email at 9:00 a.m. the following day. The agreed upon repayment. Evidence of the initial payment. I checked Instagram at 9:15 a.m. Sophie had made a new post. No high-end attire. No far-flung trip. She was sitting alone in a simple room with no walls. She looked good. Human. The caption? "It's time for some honesty." I grinned for the first time in years. I thought they would stall. To think of a rationale. To make one final attempt to coerce me into offering them a simpler solution. However, the first reimbursement appeared in my account at 9:00 a.m. Additionally, Sophie's confession went live at 9:15 a.m. Her Instagram was flooded with it. Don't use gaudy filters. There are no high-end purses in the backdrop. Sophie alone, seated in a simple, unadorned room, appearing little. The caption? "Time for some honesty." I haven't been truthful about how I funded my lifestyle. My sister Emma supported me financially while I pretended I was successful. I took money I didn't deserve, and I hurt people who trusted me. I'm taking responsibility, and I'll be working to pay back every cent. I won't ask for sympathy, only accountability. The comments section resembled a battlefield. Her candor was praised by some. Others tore her to pieces. How many followers does she have? I'm dropping by the second. Then, the strike that hurt her the most, sponsorship agreements, began to wane. 3 brands had already abandoned her by the time I checked again during lunch. By supper, 6. Fraud is not tolerated in the influencer sphere. Sophie was having to learn that lesson the hard way. The weeks that followed were odd. My phone wasn't overrun by emergency texts for the first time in years. There was no fictitious issue for Mom and Dad to phone every other day. Rather, 1 month at a time, they were discreetly making payments. Sophie, too? Okay. She found employment, a real job, at a store. She was furious when she called me for the first time. "Emma, do you know how much taxes take from my paycheck?" I gave a snort. "Welcome to real life, Sophie," she complained. But when would she call again? She had never asked me a question before. "How do you make your money stretch so far?" As I guided her through budgeting, saving, and avoiding wasting money like a dim-witted fool, she actually paid attention. Something clicked in her for the first time. It wasn't a complete change. However, it was something. Even Mom and Dad were having difficulties. They had to make real sacrifices without my money going into their pockets. The vacation home in Florida? Available for purchase. The Mercedes? Lost. A used Honda took its place. Mom called me one evening in a quiet voice. "Emma," we were thinking, "maybe we could lower the monthly payments just until things stabilize?" I didn't think twice. "No," she let out a weary sigh, defeated. I figured you'd say that. She didn't argue with me about it. That was novel. Then suddenly, I received a call from an unidentified number. Hello? The voice of a lady said, Hi, is this Emma Carter? Yeah, who's this? My name's Lisa. I'm Sophie's manager at the store. I just wanted to say, your sister? She's actually one of our best employees. I almost choked. Sophie? I said again. Yeah, said Lisa. Believe me, I was shocked too. But she's got a knack for sales. Customers love her, and we're considering her for an assistant manager position. Stunned, I sat there. Sophie. Sophie, my dear. The girl who used to scoff at the thought of working from 9 to 5? My money was wasted like Monopoly money by the girl. In fact, I was working and receiving a promotion. The fact that she was successful at retail and that she was staying with it shocked me more than anything else. I ended up parked outside my folks' house that evening. I have no idea why. Perhaps habit. I could see Mom, Dad, and Sophie sitting at the kitchen table through the window. They lied to me in front of the same table where I used to worry about expenses. However, this time, no containers for takeout, don't argue, just a supper prepared at home, Dad discussing his job. Sophie is listening. I had the option to drive off. Instead, though, I got out of my car, approached the door, and knocked. Sophie took a time to open it. She had changed appearance, not only in the uniform of the store, not only because she didn't wear high-end clothing, she seems genuine. She paused. Then she moved out of the way. She declared, We're having lasagna. Mom made enough for 4. Old habits, I guess. I glanced past her, to Dad, exhausted but alert. At Mom, shifting plates tensely. They were no longer the ones who had taken from me. However, perhaps just possibly I was starting to trust them as a family again. I inhaled deeply. I went inside after that. It felt weird sitting at the kitchen table. The food wasn't the problem. The house wasn't the cause. They were the ones. Instead of leaving the plates for someone else, Sophie actually assisted in clearing them. Dad was massaging his temples while reviewing his work calendar and discussing overtime shifts rather than some unexplained financial setback. No manicured nails tapping the table, no diamond bracelet on Mom's wrist. I wasn't staring at a family that wanted to take me away for the first time in years. I was observing a family that was developing their independence. And perhaps that was sufficient. The months that followed were intriguing. Something had changed, but Sophie was still Sophie, dramatic, defiant, Sophie. Her Instagram was no longer replete with pictures of expensive trips. No more #blessed captions with bags that I didn't realize I had purchased. Rather, she began sharing posts about everyday life, work, making a budget, figuring things out. And the most peculiar aspect? In fact, people enjoyed it. Her fan base was smaller than it had been, but who remained? They valued her candor. In a strange turn of events, brands began contacting people once more, not for sponsorships of luxury, but for campaigns that promote financial responsibility. Sophie, the former spoiled influencer, learning how to live in the real world. The best kind of irony. And me? At last, I was leading a life of my own. I was doing great at work. 3 significant fraud schemes have already been discovered by my new department, saving the corporation millions. I have a 6th feel for financial fraud, Mr. Harrison quipped. I wish he knew where I got the information. He drew me aside one afternoon. He studied me and remarked, You know, Emma, you were good when you first started here, but you played it safe. I arched an eyebrow. And now? He smiled. Now? You're ruthless. I chuckled. Yes, I was. Because I had finally learnt the most crucial lesson of all after years of being misled, coerced, and exploited. The one and only person who would ever protect me was me. What about Mom and Dad? They were still learning the ropes. The vacation home in Florida was not selling as quickly as they had hoped. Mom continued to occasionally try to negotiate the payments plan. I didn't budge, though. Not once. Considering that I had learned my lesson, they were now discovering theirs. Then I received a call one evening. Sophie. She hesitantly said, Hey, as if she wasn't sure if she could still just call me. I reclined on my sofa. Hey, there was silence between us. Then I got promoted. I blinked. Wait, what? Saying store manager, I actually worked my ass off for it. My chest grew constricted. Because I didn't grow up with this Sophie. This girl wasn't the type to expect everything to be given to her. This was a girl who, at last, had discovered what it meant to put forth effort. I said, "Congratulations," and I truly meant it for the first time in years. As if she had been holding her breath, she let out a breath. "Thanks." One more pause. Then silently, "Emma? Yeah?" "I apologize," she muttered. I let the words sink in by closing my eyes, because she had never spoken anything so genuine to me as this. Not a ploy. This isn't a desperate attempt to obtain something from me, just sincere apologies. The past was not erased. Not everything was resolved right away. However, perhaps just possibly, it was a beginning. I ended up back at that kitchen table a few months later. It was the same table where I used to worry about past due payments. The same table where betrayal had once caught me off guard. Just now, Dad was whining about his job. Mom was discussing coupons, and Sophie was doing some dishwashing. The payback schedule remained unchanged. The harm was not overlooked. However, I became aware of something as I looked around. The largest scams we encounter in life aren't always pecuniary in nature. These are the stories we tell ourselves sometimes about our identity, what we are due, as well as human potential. To learn that lesson, my family had to lose everything. However, listening to Mom genuinely discuss conserving money, seeing Dad take responsibility, and witnessing Sophie set the table without being asked, in my life, for the first time, perhaps just perhaps at last, the lesson had stuck.